everyone. Hopefully you're all watching again. Today we're going to be doing something, it's actually quite simple, so this might be a fairly quick video. What we're going to be focusing on today is subject, verb, objects. Now this sounds really funny because they sound like three separate concepts, but there are three separate concepts that work together to create sentences, and we need to understand this so that we can carry on tomorrow with conjunctions. So let's have a look. So subject, verb, object are the three components that you absolutely need so that you can make a sentence. There is no sentence, it is not a valid sentence if it does not have subject, verb, okay? Those are the two that absolutely have to be in a sentence. If you don't have those two things in a sentence, then it is not a valid sentence. Okay, so I'm going to put an example on board so that we can look at it and I can explain to you what these three parts do and why they're so important in a sentence. Okay, so if I say something like, let's look at the sentence, she plays tennis. Okay, now, the one that we already know about and that we have looked at before, so I'll start with that one first, is our verb. Okay, remembering that a verb is a doing word, so it shows us the action that is being done. Okay, so the verb in our sentence is plays. So this is showing us what is being done and what action is taking place in the sentence. Now, our subject and our object. Now, the subject in a sentence is the person or the thing that is doing the action. So it could be the person in this sentence, for example, she is the one who is playing tennis. So she is our subject. She is the one who is doing the actual action. And so that is our subject. Object is the person or thing in the sentence that is having the action done to it. So what is being played? It is tennis. So this here is our object. Okay, these are the three parts. Now, obviously, not all sentences are going to be this simple, but this is just a very basic sentence. Okay, longer sentences will still have these three components to them. They will just also have phrases attached to it which add other meaning to it. Okay, so let's look at another one. So if I take this same sentence, okay, and I say she plays tennis every Saturday is still part of that sentence. It's not part of my object. It is just a phrase that has been added on. So this concept applies to any and all sentences. Okay, so let's look at another sentence. Okay, so the dog chews his bone. Okay, now, once again, easiest place, if you ever have to try identify the subject, verb, and object in a sentence, okay, then start with the verb. Verbs are easiest to find. They are our doing word. They show us what action is being done. So what action is being done here? It is chews. The dog is chewing the bone. So we know that that is our action. Once you have your verb, it is easy to look at your sentence and go, okay, what is doing the action? What is chewing? Okay, then we know that that's the dog. Okay, the dog is our subject. It is the one that is chewing the bone. Next, we can look at our verb again and say, okay, our verb was choose. What is having the action done to it? What is our object? What is being chewed? Okay, and it is his bone. So his bone is the object because it is the thing that is being chewed. Okay, now the reason it is really important to understand this is because knowing that a sentence contains a subject, verb, and object, and knowing that that makes a complete sentence will help you when you have to start doing things like compounding complex sentences, okay, and it will help the most when you have to start doing things like active and passive voice. I will do a lesson next week on active and passive because it does relate to this quite closely, and I will do a lesson on types of sentences, so like compound and complex. But understanding this whole idea of subject, verb, and object in a sentence is really important for you to understand how sentences work. Okay? So, next thing I want to point out, you will often get a sentence that only has a subject and a verb. Okay? Now, for a sentence to be a complete sentence, it has to have a subject and a verb. The object is optional. Okay? The majority of sentences have a subject, verb, and object, but you will get the odd sentence that only has a subject and a verb. So an example of this would be something like, okay, Jane runs. Okay, this is a complete sentence. Okay, now if you look at it, first thing, look for our verb. Our verb is runs. It's showing us the action. Okay, and our subject, which is the person or thing doing the action, is Jane. So this is an example of where you'll get a sentence which is a complete sentence. It makes perfect sense on its own, but it only has a subject and a verb. So every sentence has to have its own subject and own verb to make complete sense. Okay? However, the majority of sentences have an object as well. So now I want to show you an example of where the sentences we've looked at have only contained a subject, verb, and object. So I want to put a sentence on the board that has a lot of extra stuff to it so that we can have a look at how the subject, verb, and object fit into that. Okay? So let's have a look. Okay, so my father grows his own vegetables. Okay, so my father grows his own vegetables. Now, this doesn't have a whole lot of extra things, but we'll start with this one and then I'm going to put another one on the board as well. So first things first, always start with your verb. Okay, if you ever get questions about this in a test, which they generally don't do because it is a very simple thing to understand, then you will usually have to underline it in a certain color or underneath it say subject and then write down what word the subject is. So it's always good when you have to identify, start with your verb. What action is being done? The action that is being done is grows. Okay, so grows is my verb. Remembering that once I find my verb, everything else is easier to find. Because for a subject, it's my personal thing doing the action, all I now do is I go, who is growing something? The person who is growing something in my sentence is my father. Okay? So now I know who is growing something. Now I need to figure out what the object is. So who or what is being grown? Okay, the thing that is being grown is the vegetables. Okay, so this is now my object. Now you'll see between our verb and our object, which didn't happen in the other sentences, you've got his own. These can also be seen as part of your object, although not generally, because these are describing the vegetables. They are my grandfather's own vegetables. It's just a way of describing the vegetables. Okay, so another example, okay, where we've got a whole lot of extra stuff in there. So if I say, they travel to the coast during the holidays. Okay, so now I've got my sentence, they travel to the coast during the holidays. Okay, once again, let's have a look. First thing we look for is our verb. who or what action is being done? The action is travel. So here I have my verb. Okay, now I need to look for my subject. Who or what is doing the action? Okay, that is they. That is my subject. Those are the ones, the person or the thing that is doing the action. Now, who or what is having the action done to them? Who or what is being traveled to? It is the coast. Okay, that is my object. Now you'll notice at the end of the sentence, okay, you've got during the holidays. This is an example of what we call an adjectival phrase. This extra part of the sentence is giving us extra descriptions of where they're traveling to. Okay, so it's just an extra phrase adding on some information to the sentence. Okay, so I know this has been a fairly short video, but this was a fairly simple concept that is easy enough to understand. So I don't want to go try now add in something else. So just to recap, subject, verb, and object. For a sentence to be a sentence, every sentence must have a subject and a verb. It has to. If it does not have a subject and it does not have a verb, it is not a complete sentence. Okay? Most sentences will have a subject, verb, and object. The verb in your sentence is obviously your doing word. It is the action that is being done. Okay? Your subject is the person or thing that is doing the action. And the object is the person or thing that is having the action done to it. So if I give you the sentence, the dog chases the cat, chases is my verb, it is the action that is being done. The dog is the one doing the chasing, so it is my subject. Sorry, chases is my verb, and then my object is the cat because it is the person or thing that is having the action done to it. So, thank you for joining us for a very short lesson. I hope you understand what's going on here because we're going to be using it tomorrow and then next week. Thank you so much for joining us. Please give this video a share and let people know what we're doing so that they can come join us and learn something new. So please hit the subscribe button and the bell so that you can get notifications. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.